too expendable. After spending months on the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic, nurses nationwide could face termination as vaccine mandates take effect in our hospitals. In Colorado alone, 3,800 healthcare facilities are requiring staff to get the shot or get fired by the end of October.
Oh my God, our whole thing could be falling apart, our healthcare industry, because now in some areas, healthcare professionals are being required to not actively transmit COVID to the people they're helping to save. And we've got not just speculation there from Fox, but also anecdotal evidence, because they eventually went to this segment. They had their nurses fired over vax mandate segment, and then they had a nurse who was fired over a vax mandate. This is Destiny Carpenter, who appeared on Fox and Friends to lament how she was let go from the Colorado hospital where she worked after telling her supervisor that she would not be getting a COVID-19 vaccination, despite a clear hospital policy requiring all healthcare workers to do so. So there's multiple issues here. The first being, she could have just gotten the vaccine. And honestly, maybe I'm insane, but it doesn't seem like too much to ask that someone that is like around people with COVID, is treating people for other things other than COVID, might be vaccinated against COVID. That seems reasonable to me. What do you think, JR?
Yeah, of course. There's a thing though, but also you can tell from the way that whole thing was posed. It's okay, so there's 3,800 medical nurses that are potentially gonna they either have to get the vaccination or get fired. It's encompassing it in this one particular argument that claims they're being fired. They're choosing to leave their jobs. They're not being fired just because they're there. You're not following the same processes. You're not following the rules of the employment. And by the way, that's fine, bro. That's your choice. There's no, hey, no, I want to get vaccinated and stay here. And no, you're fired anyway because we don't like you. No, you made the decision to not do this thing, and the result of that decision is you not working here anymore because it doesn't fit this. If you work for a construction company and you're building a new high rise, you gotta wear a hard hat, you gotta wear steel toe boots. That's safety, bro. And if you don't want to, because steel toe boots are kind of uncomfortable and you have wide feet or whatever the hell is wrong with you, then you're gonna have to maybe do something else or deal with it. Which one is it gonna be? But this is the rules of this employment if you wanna work here, or don't be in construction anymore.
Exactly, but Fox has ulterior motives. So first of all, to make it exciting. Like you could presumably have like, one of those big graphics, TYT host fired over refusing to wear pants. Well, like, yeah, there are things that are required of you to work somewhere, and that's not new. We didn't come up with that during the pandemic. It's been around for a while, but that's just one issue. There's at least two others. The second is that they have her on here to rail against vaccine mandates, which are a tyrannical overextension of government power, while not acknowledging that Fox News Media has a vaccine mandate. So she came on a show with a vaccine mandate to talk about how those are dictatorial. They didn't acknowledge that. And at no point did Ainsley Earhardt, by the way, who you saw in that video, acknowledge that she's vaccinated or that Fox News requires all their staff members to communicate whether they're vaccinated or be forced to wear masks if they do not. So that's the second problem, is the hypocrisy. And that has been just a standard. Like, we're gonna go over all the different shows railing against vaccine mandates recently. Every single one of the people working on those shows is vaccinated at this point, but they have to pretend that they don't. Because again, this is never about having everyone have the same level of protection. They've always been better protected. It's about them continuing to profit off of the inequality, the continued death via vaccine suspicion and hesitancy that they're helping to produce. So, Jared, that hypocrisy is the second issue in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. And also Sage Steele was making some news. She's the ESPN anchor woman she used to do the NBA report. Now she's still with the company, but she's had some comments and things that she said that's gotten her into a little bit of back and forth. And she went on Jay Cutler's show and talked about how she was forced to do this scary and pushy vaccine mandate from ESPN, but I did it. Hey, bro, what are we talking about this for? It's turned into this, conservatives like to say libs or virtue signaling, and they want to say they're better than you. What's the point of letting everybody know that you didn't want to do it, but you did it anyway? That's what a lot of these are empty declarations of what's happening. The healthcare workers up in Maine, all the nurses said, we're gonna walk out. yeah, let's walk out. And then 12 of them walked out and the other 1,500 stayed at their job because they like their job and they're okay with actually what's happening. They want to say all this to get some kind of clout. Then after getting the clout, they go ahead and do it anyway because like, oh, I got my clout. I just let them know that I'm a badass. Now I'm good. Yeah. That's the only reason to do this because the people aren't following through with this. They're just saying, I'm gonna stand up. And by the way, if you follow through with it, if you're gonna be an activist, you know what happens to activists? We've always seen this back in the civil rights era. Civil rights activists, they'd end up in jail. There's consequences for the things they were doing because they're trying to push our society to a better place. If you're this righteous activist for the anti-COVID movement, hey bro, lose your job then. That's part of the consequences. Maybe you'll bring some more attention to it. Why do you want both sides of it? You can be an activist that's standing up against a tyrannical government, but then you want to keep your job. Hey, this is the rules of the place you've chosen to work. If it's not the situation there, you're gonna have to pay the consequences. Maybe you'll make a big deal out of it and get people on your side. Go for it, bro.
Yeah, we talked about that story in our production meeting. And when I saw the headline, like, I didn't want to get it, but I got it because of the vaccine mandate. My only response was, yeah, that's what it's for. That's literally the only thing that it's for. And hey, what do you know? It works like 99.9% of the time. And do you know what's gonna happen to Sage Steele is the name of the person you said? You know what's gonna happen to Sage Steele? Nothing bad, just gonna be protected against COVID. And it's gonna be very easy to even forget that you got it. I got the shot. It doesn't have any effect on me anymore, like other than the protection against COVID. Not as much, I got J&J, unfortunately, that's my own problem or whatever, I'm dealing with that. But that's it, It's not gonna make you sterile, it's not gonna kill you in 2 years, that's just not what's gonna happen. But let's turn to the third problem with what Fox News is doing. Because Fox News is not just bringing on people who refuse to comply with the mandate and saying, this is freedom, this is liberty. There are not many, but they're doing the freedom thing, eagles and lions and all that. That's not what they're doing here. They are very much lying about how much of this we're seeing. So like I pointed out, this is anecdotal information. Bringing on one nurse who got fired is fine, I guess. But if you try to make it seem like it's something bigger than that, then we're gonna have to respond with the actual evidence. So we'll get to their messaging in a bit. But the actual evidence shows that no, it is not some sort of like wave of firings. So North Carolina's hospital system, we found out via the Washington Post, fired about 175 workers in one of the largest ever mass terminations due to a vaccine mandate. Here, the Washington Post is kind of doing the Fox thing, because you read that headline and you think, dear God, 175 workers? Well, look, that is 175 workers. But as New York City Southpaw pointed out on Twitter, 99.5% of their employees complied with the mandate. But you had to go down several paragraphs past that misleading headline to even know that. The actual headline is vaccine mandate, massive rousing success. Virtually every single person complied with it. And we're still getting the evidence, but that's not the only piece that we have. We had the Truman Medical Center's University Health in Kansas City. They had given 5,000 workers until September 20th to get vaccinated. Apparently 39 resigned rather than do so. That is quite a bit less than 1%. So again, more than 99% are complying with it. And it's not just healthcare. You see this in transportation as well, in the airlines. United Airlines says that about 593 of their employees might end up getting fired. Again, that sounds like a lot. That's less than 1% not complying. And only about 3% even applied for exemptions for medical or religious reasons or whatever. Even combining those two, that is a small percentage of the total workforce. And we're seeing similar things at other airlines as well. So as we go forward, just bear in mind, any narrative that this is some sort of like apocalypse, and a deserved one because the government is so overreaching, is simply not being demonstrated by the data that we have so far.
Yeah, and this thing, they know that this continues on that same line of the fake approach to what's really happening. You say this is happening, when in reality, if the other way is going, where people are actually getting the vaccination and people are beginning to save more lives, the numbers are gonna look a little better. And we're gonna wonder, man, what happened to all those people that quit and are dying and aren't getting vaccinated? No, they're actually getting vaccinated, but that follow-up or that very big aspect of this story just isn't being reported for some reason. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Because when numbers do start evening out or more people get it. Because also, I read a quick article this morning. More Republicans are now identifying Republican voters and people in the country, just citizens, saying, yeah, the more of them are getting vaccinated. They're easing into it. They're lightening up on their opposition to it. That's going to be happening as they see people around them die. It's just how it's going to work. So as that happens more, we're going to see things get a little better, but we're still going to have this narrative that there's this iron fist that's been thrust upon everyone.
Yeah.
And then they've been forced to do this. No, they've chosen now. This is a choice.
Yeah. Now, look, there might be some that use, what are apparently like the epidemic of fake vaccination and mask cards and exemption cards, whatever. There might be a bit of that. What I would also say there's likely to be a good bit of is in public polls where you like ask people, have you been vaccinated? I bet a significant number of Republicans will continue to say that they haven't, but when facing a mandate, they go and get vaccinated because nobody wants to lose their job. Like, I doubt they're gonna go around to their community and be like, I got vaccinated, but I think that they're gonna get vaccinated.
That was happening early. That was happening, sorry, last thing. That was happening early in the vaccination when the vaccine started coming out. Not early, but I'd say around early summer. People, it's specifically in Missouri, many people there were like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get the vaccine, but I'm not gonna tell anyone. It was like in secret because you didn't want to get lambasted by your community.
Yeah, whether you were actually opposed to it or not, if you know that you're surrounded by a bunch of smooth brains that are not, they're gonna give you hell over it, well then you might say that you're not getting vaccinated, but you also don't want to get COVID.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.